the policies. All right, so first of all, we want to make sure we're using the right terms. So it's accountability reporting, right? So accountability reporting would be the more correct name. So I'm actually going to change that on here. So it's accountability reporting on our budget, and then Plasma in parentheses. So Plasma is the organization that's coordinating the accountability reporting. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so because Plasma is like going to be like a company. All right, so basically, here, let me just copy and paste some of these notes so go quicker. There we go. So the overall goal, let's go through the response. The responsibility would be overall status reporting to the network, right? To the network and the membership. So the goal is to give a comprehensive overall. Oh no, lost the document. If you guys want to take notes, are you guys taking notes?
Yeah, I can continue taking notes. Mm-hmm.
So the overall goal is to have an overall comprehensive status report on everything in the network, right? So this would be the percentage complete, right? That makes sense?
No.
Does that make sense?
Let's repeat it again.
All right, here, let me put notes here as well. So let's see, goal, give an overall comprehensive status of the network, right? So this would be the percentage complete for each and every component of the network, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this will consists of two types of work, right? So the first is going to be the spreadsheets. So you're going to have spreadsheets of percentage complete for the work. And then the second is going to be a report, actual document report. So you're going to have one-page report on the overall status of the network, right? We're going to have a one-page report on the internal setup for the network, and a one-page report on the external goals and priorities. Okay? So the idea is to end up with three pages that give this overall picture of like the situation of what's going on. Okay? And then we can have endless pages on sub components. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that in 3 pages, you basically be able to see everything. So just to give you an example, so for everything, there's going to be 3 numbers. So the overall status is the first percentage is the overall, which is 50-50. Then you have the percentage organizing, right? So it'd be like responsibility organizing. It's basically like organizing, setup, et cetera, right? And then you have the percentage of the implementation and completion of the work. So does that make sense? So we're going to separate everything into organizing and implementation and completion of the work. We want to track both. So it's not just about getting the work done. It's also about organizing the work so that the work is organized. Otherwise, you can't do the work, right? So, and
what is the overall 50-50?
The overall 50-50 is just the organizing setup plus the implementation divided by 2, right? Just 50-50. So we're going to say that the organizing and setup is half of the score, and the implementation and completion of the work is half the score. So it's 50-50 split between the two. Okay? Yeah. So that's basically and for every single subcomponent is going to be the same. All right?
Yeah.
And you're going to use the spreadsheets to calculate that. And the spreadsheets are going to be set up, right, where you have the organizing spreadsheets, and you're going to have the implementation and completion of the work spreadsheets. Right? Or you could just call it the work spreadsheets, right? Organizing spreadsheets and work spreadsheets. So does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So just
for me now, what are we organizing on this spreadsheet?
Okay, so let's go back up to responsibility organizing, right? Right. So let's choose any responsibility. Let's just do the weekly check-in verification, right? Okay, what did you guys just do? The weekly check-in. What's it called? The weekly check-in.
Global weekly check-in.
Percentage calculations. I think that's what you just did. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think you guys just did weekly check-in percentage calculations, right? So that's the responsibility that you just did. We'll give it the little responsibility symbol. And we'll make it a nice little pretty color here. Pretty color. All right, so that would be the calculations, right? But then there's the responsibility organizing for the weekly check-in calculations. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the goal for this is to calculate the percentage client work and soft/hard stop, right? The goal for this is to list the step-by-step and tasks to complete the responsibility with responsibility organizing link and information, video links, training video links, right? Etc. 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 Right?
Yeah.
So did that make sense? So this is for responsibly organizing. This is the organizing aspect of the responsibility, and this is the actually work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Lucy, does it make sense or not?
Well, I don't know why I'm not getting.
Do you understand?
Yes, I'm getting, but are we going to, like, every responsibility need to calculate and put the percentage?
Of course. Every single responsibility needs to be organized, and we're going to be having a percentage on every responsibility for how organized it is. That's the whole point of responsibility organizing.
So are we supposed to create a spreadsheet, different spreadsheet? Like
this
spreadsheet of
new. Yeah, so
spreadsheet of percentage
new.
complete for the work.
Well, we already
then
have
we
that.
put organizing spreadsheet.
Organizing
spreadsheet and
the
work
new is that we're having an organizing spreadsheet to verify the percentage complete for each responsibility and other levels of organizing, right? So we need to make sure we're organized on everything that we do, and so therefore we need to track the percentage of the organization, right? So for example, we could say the Mars session, right? We are, maybe 5% complete on the work, right? And then so you have the Mars session organizing maybe we are 7% complete on the organizing of the work, right?
So Plasmo is
overall,
like
what?
Is it for all responsibilities that are existing or for some of the responsibilities under Plasmo?
It's gonna be everything.
I think all different. There's a mix. We mix all the responsibilities. We see. Let's see. Maybe I need Jay to do for us at least one example on that. Let me share the spreadsheet.
Well, here I can give you a very simple example. Would be the positions doc. So if you open up the positions doc, right, you will see positions doc. Let's see, where's the positions doc? I mean the position spreadsheet. So there's a spreadsheet of all the positions. All right, here we go. Positions list. I think this should be it. I'm not 100% sure, but hopefully.
So position, okay.
Oh no, it didn't work. Why did it not work? Position.
Maybe you can just open the one I put in.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, so it has complete work and complete for the position organizing. So if you look at the positions list, right, you have here on column A, this is the percentage of the work that has been completed.
Yeah.
Right, so that means that the work's actually getting done, right? And the manager doesn't even oversee the work, right? Doesn't actually do the work. The manager is just reporting on how much of the work that they're managing is getting done. The percentage of the organizing of the position, this would be position organizing, is totally separate. So like if we take websites coordinator, maybe we could say this has been 20, or maybe not 20, but like 15% organized.
15%.
But there's only 3% of the work getting done. Right?
Yeah.
So we could say for the payroll coordinator, right? There's almost like the payroll coordination is like a big mess. Maybe like 23% is the actual position is organized, right? But the work is getting done, so maybe we have like 65% of the work getting done. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's like it can go either way. You can have either more the position organized but less of the work getting done, or you can have more of the work getting done and less of the organization, right? It can go either way.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that the third one would just be overall. So overall would be your percentage completion work plus the percentage of the position organizing divided by 2. So it's averaged 50-50, right? And this will give you the relationship between the two. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So technically we want to start having all three of those numbers, but we want to do it. I think it's only really applicable to the Plasmo report to have the overall, but what we want, so that we have a final individual number.
Yeah, I think this one we need to put applicable to overall. Yeah.
But what I want to start doing is I want to start tracking the completion of the organizing positions separately from the work, because we need to make sure it's that people understand how important it is, right? Like it's so important, it needs its own separate spreadsheet, its own separate thing. So basically the direction I'm going is to consider responsibility organizing as a responsibility. The responsibility organizing of the responsibility that you're doing is a responsibility itself, right? So doing the responsibility organizing process for a responsibility is a responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So are we still going to do like we just have to make sure it has the link like other responsibility organizing?
Well, it would link to the same place. So the responsibility organizing process for the responsibility would be the same link as the responsibility itself.
Yeah.
There's no difference, right? It's not like separate. It's just it's just a responsibility within the responsibility, right? It's almost like a sub responsibility, right? It's like a sub responsibility, right? So this would be the principal responsibility, and this would be a sub responsibility of the principal responsibility to actually do the responsibility organizing process, and then also to track whether the responsibility organizing is complete. You know, are we making progress on it, or are we only making progress on the work? Or making progress on the work and not making progress on the organizing. So the overall calculation is just the two linked together, you know, like you just add them together would give you your overall.
So it seems like we are going to do like a repetition because we already have some of our responsibilities.
No. So let me give you the next step. So if this all makes sense, let me go into the next step, okay? All right, so there's two more things you need to understand here. The first thing is that we're evolving the organizing methodology, okay? So there's organizing methodology, and then there's going to be the work organizing methodology, okay? So I'm not going to go through this right now, but we're going to go through it at like the quarter moon session or some other session. Maybe on Wednesday we could do it at the Cobalt session. But the worker organizing methodology is very important and very specific on how it's going to work. So worker organizing methodology. And I'll just go ahead and copy and paste some of this here. Worker organizing system. So we're going to have a worker organizing system. Cool. But the key is that what we're going to be organizing is going to be more than just responsibility organizing. So responsibility organizing is just one of the types of worker organizing of the worker organizing system. So these would be the processes of the worker organizing system. So the processes of the worker organizing system are system organizing process, the process organizing process, the policy organizing process, the protocol organizing process. Then you have the responsibility organizing process. So the responsibility organizing process is the most important one. Also, the responsibility organizing process is pretty much the same thing as all the other processes, right? So the position organizing process is the same thing as responsibility organizing, except instead of for responsibility, you're organizing a position. Does that make sense?
It makes sense and understand, but the thing I was asking, if we use the same spreadsheet, like we have a position spreadsheet, or this is just like we will organize all the thing on one spreadsheet, which is.
Well, it's going to be different depending on what you're doing, right? So the position organizing process, I think is fine to have it all on the same spreadsheet. But for the responsibility organizing process, it's not okay to have on the same spreadsheet. You need separate spreadsheets, one to coordinate all of the organizing of the responsibilities, and a separate one to coordinate the work getting done. Okay?
Yeah.
Right, so then you have system, so you have system organizing, process organizing, policy organizing, protocol organizing, task organizing, branch organizing, management organizing, coordination organizing, project organizing, priority organizing, and team setup and organizing processes. Right, so you have team organizing. So these are all the ones that I have thought of so far. I'm sure additional ones will come, right?
Yeah.
But the whole idea is that responsibility organizing in and of itself is not enough. I think we've made a huge amount of progress in responsibility organizing to the point where now we're able to really go beyond responsibility organizing, because it's not enough just to organize responsibilities. we also need to organize our projects. We need to organize our positions, right? We need to organize our tasks, and we need to organize our
Priorities.
Our priorities. Exactly. So we need to make sure we're organizing not just the responsibilities, and that will help us organize our responsibilities as well. So the last thing to understand here is what we're going to be doing for the Plasmo, the accountability report. So the accountability report is this reporting on the status percentage of everything, right? Like that's what we're reporting on. So we're going to start with the internal setup. Okay? So in the internal setup, we have branches. There are currently about 6 branches to the organization. Can you guys think of a branch? You know an example of a branch?
Digital storytellers.
No. Digital storytellers would be a sponsored program. So it would be orgs programs. You know, it would be a program.
I don't know the branch there. Just know.
Just give us an example. Like
communications, documentations, actions, and then you have format. I can't remember the other one, and then there's interactions, right? So these are the 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 branches to the network, and we rarely talk about them because they're so broad. It's just kind of silly, right? But for when we're doing our reporting, we're going to want to make sure that we are reporting on each branch, because these are actual important branches of the network. We can't even name one of them. That's how bad we are, right?
Yeah.
So then projects. How many projects are there? And can you give an example of a project?
30 something.
Yeah, there's like 40 something. I think there's 49. But anyway, there's dozens of projects, and we have lots of examples, like payroll's a project, right? So
budget,
website, exactly, right? So then we're gonna have our responsibilities within each project. So what happens is if we do the projects, each of the projects will be organized based on the responsibilities within that project. And so then the project itself will be an overall percentage completion based on all the responsibilities within that project. So then by doing all the projects, we'll get a pretty good idea of all of our responsibilities, and then that will relate to the branches. Right? So depending on which branch it is, it has different specific projects that are within each branch. So all of the projects fit into the 6 branches. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like how now fitting there? How you understand that, Alvina? How can you fit all these projects on 6 branches?
Well, just like you fit the responsibilities into the projects, you fit the projects into the branches.
Yeah.
Right? So as an example, communications would include, well, here you have
multimedia.
Yeah, multimedia, of course. Websites, right? Websites, worker coordination,
social media,
session support, right? All of that's communications. All of our worker coordinations, all based on communication. All of our session supports, all communications. It's all communications. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
So where will payroll fall or budget? Payroll is it under?
So it's mainly basically finances are documentations.
Yeah.
Also, elections are documentations. Right. So anything that has to do with finances, elections, accounting, right? All of that is considered documentations. Actions is more like planning and decision making and implementation. So actions would be considered like when you're doing like certain aspects of actual like the treasurer position might be considered taking action, right? Because you're actually spending the money and moving money around, like that would be an action, right? So this might be money organizing and treasurer position, right? So that might be part of actions, whereas the accounting, finances, elections, those are all just part of documentations, right? Anyways, the point is that we want to go through each of our projects and make sure that we're doing an overall percentage. How is the internal setup of the project? How is the work getting done? And what is the overall, right? So for every single component, it's all going to be in the spreadsheets, and then we're going to do three pages that do an overall report on everything going on that will link to all the spreadsheets that'll have the overall, you know, reporting. So this will be a very, very broad overview of the entire network. So the two components again are the internal setup of the network, right, which includes the branches, the projects, and then by default the responsibilities within each project. I mean, eventually we could do a one-pager on each individual project, but that's just not necessary now. But maybe we would do a one-pager on each of the 6 branches, right? External goal. Oh, another example of communications would be investor relations, right? Investor relations is all communications, right?
And the recruitment also there.
Yeah, and that would include recruitment, right? So you can see how broad and large communications is. And then there's also, for the branch, there's also the communications project, right? Every branch has its own project as well. So there's the communications branch, which looks like this. That's a branch, right? So that's the symbol for a branch. All right, and then you have the communications project. And the difference between the communications branch and the communications project is the communications project is more like, you know, the position, right? So you have the position of communications. So the communications position is, the communications position is responsible. It's an executive position that's responsible to oversee all of the communications, right? The communications project is the project that organizes all of the communications processes and policies. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, but the communications branch is much broader. The communications branch includes all of the projects that are part of the branch, but communications is one of the projects that's part of the communications branch. Just like documentations is one of the projects that is part of the documentations branch. It's the primary documentations branch, and then you've got a documentations position, right? And the documentations position is an executive position that oversees the documentations work. Okay, so then the second part is the external goals and priorities. So we have all of our entities, we've got all of our orgs and programs, we've got our campaigns, we have our internal, right, within the network. We've got our external, right, separate, independent from the network, right? Then we have our sponsored, right, sponsorship, etc., etc. So there's all these different categories, but every single program and project is going to be listed. Okay? And then every single program and project is going to get a score on the organizing and the implementation. Organizing and the work. Okay? So an example for this would be the sponsorship program is a program. Right?
Yeah.
So for this, how organized are we? Well, maybe we're like 12% organized. Organized 12%. And how much of the work did we get done? Maybe we've gotten like 5% done or less. 3%. Right? What does organizing consist of? Organizing would consist of our doc organizing, responsibility organizing, policy organizing, protocol organizing, right, etc., etc., etc. So depending on what type, like if you're looking at a branch, you have to consider, because a branch will consist of all of this. Every branch is going to have projects, responsibilities, positions, systems, processes, policies, protocols, tasks, everything, right? Management, coordination, right? This is it consists for all of you. But if you're just doing a responsibility doesn't have to include all of this, right? And then you're looking at your work. How much work have you completed? Another example of an organization, or actually another one that we could do is a company, right? So company might be like Plasmo, Rico, right? Those would be examples of companies.
Exa?
Exa would be external.
Okay.
So Exa, I would say, is Exa organized? No. Maybe Exa is like 5% organized. The work they're getting done, maybe they're 25%. Maybe 20%. Exa is not. And then another external organization would be the mission within, right? So the mission within is the new group that we have as a client, right? Another external would be WorldPlay Ventures, Reset, right? So there's all these external groups that we work with, right? But there's also internal programs, right? So an internal, so then you'd have sponsored. So these would be sponsored programs. So it's kind of in between. So you have internal within the network. This would include like Plasma would be an internal company, right? So these would all be companies that would be internal. Another example could be, and the sponsorship program itself would be internal as well, right? Then these would be sponsored programs, would be like digital storytellers, Spark Poetry, right?
Yeah.
Right. So then you'd have each of the programs, right? So again, there's two components to everything. There's our internal setup. Our internal setup for the network itself, which includes our branches, our projects, and then by default our responsibilities, etc., right? So and then there's our external goals and priorities, which includes all the entities and organizations. So different internal entities could include, for example, what is it, like WCTC, Community Life Network, Innovate United, LLC, right, etc., etc. So these would be different entities, and these are internal entities. There's also external entities. So primarily you're organizing it between internal, external, and sponsored, right? So primary organization is internal, then you have sponsored, and then you have external. Okay? Yeah. And basically everything else would be admin. So this is all admin, which is our setup /admin. So the setup and admin is obviously what we're focusing on. We almost exclusively focus on setup and admin. But for our plasma reporting, for the accountability reporting, we're not successful unless we balance between the administrative work to support the programs and actually completing the goals and priorities that we have. Oh, we got all the mail. Cool. Exciting. Awesome. So does that make sense as far as the work that needs to get done? I mean, this is a huge amount of work. It's never ending. I mean, the probability we can even get it all completed by September is very low. But this could be a top priority for Plasmo and for the accountability reporting for the Mars session. And I think it would be good to get these. They would just be 3 pages, right? So we would need to, for the overall status of the entire network, we would need to complete first the 1-pager on the internal setup. So the internal setup would be our branches and projects, and by default our responsibilities, right? And then the 1-page report.
So are we listing on the 1-page report on internal setup? So are we listing on a doc or on a spreadsheet?
This is the doc, right? So we're gonna do it all. First, you do all the spreadsheets. Okay?
Yeah.
So, so you're gonna have a spreadsheet that's gonna list all of your branches, a spreadsheet that lists all of the projects, and then each project would separately have its own prioritization spreadsheet that lists the responsibilities. All right, so we're going to organize the responsibilities by project, okay?
Yeah.
So basically, as far as we're concerned, we're going to kind of ignore the responsibilities. We're only, because this is so broad and we're doing it for the entire network, we're going to focus on the projects and we're going to focus on the branches, right? Because we're not doing the work, what we're doing is we're doing the reporting for the accountability, right? So people don't have the time to look at thousands of responsibilities. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
when
is it the same spreadsheet that we have branches and projects, or separate?
they could be the same spreadsheet, just different tabs,
Okay.
right? So you just need to create one. You just need to create one spreadsheet, but every single project should have a responsibility verification spreadsheet that's verifying the responsibilities. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we should be able to go
Every
into the
project
but
separate.
yeah, so
Yeah.
every single project would have its own list of responsibilities that we're tracking. What is the work that's done, what's the work that's completed, and what is the overall, right? So that would be eventually organized within every single project. But for now, I wouldn't worry about that. We can do that for next year, right? So we don't have the time to go through every single project and get it all organized, right? It's just not going to happen. Right now, we just need to focus on what we can do, which is the project. So there's like 49 projects. So every single project is going to need a percentage completion for both its organization. The more that it's organized, the more that it has its priorities organized, the responsibilities and all that, the higher the percentage would be. Like, something like there's a couple projects, like, our campaigns project, there's nothing. It literally doesn't even have a doc yet. So it's that 0%, right? It has nothing completed, right? So, yeah. So I think that's pretty
that's
much.
Good idea.
So this.
Where are we indexing all this information?
We haven't even started. This is brand new.
Okay.
So this would be a new report. This would be our primary Plasma accountability report, and we would call it the
It's going to
network-wide
be indexed
status.
on Plasma, Albina.
Yeah, so this is the overall status reporting of the network. So this would be the status report, right? Status report on the percentage completion, percentage organization, percentage organized and completed work, right? So it's basically giving an overall, like the end goal here is we have a single number that is representative of the entire network. As an entire network, how, where are we in our status in terms of like our completed work and how that reflects moving forward, right? So my estimate is that we're probably somewhere between like 10 and 20%. But we won't actually know until we do all the calculations, because in the end, the actual percentage is simply the average of the internal setup percentage and the external goals and priorities percentage. Does that make sense? And that will be our overall percentage. All right, and we'll have an exact percentage based on the percentages that, so the branches percentage will just be an average of all of our branches, which will average all of our projects. Okay?
Yeah. So the responsibility is going to be.
The responsibility is overall status reporting to the network and membership. And there's two types of work. There's two like components of every work type of the network. So there's two components of this work. The first is the spreadsheets. And the second is the actual document report. So this would be like an umbrella responsibility.
Yes.
The spreadsheet, the percentage of the work is even, principal responsibility, but there's the one, for the projects, there's the one for the branches. Then after you do the spreadsheets, then and only then, this would be, check in to make sure the spreadsheets are correct and verified. Then after we have the spreadsheet verified, for example, the internal setup admin work, right, for all the branches and projects, then we would do a report, a one-page report on the status of our internal setup and administration for the network, right? And we'd be like, okay, this is our overall score. This is our, our internal setup score. This is our, our organizing score. This is our actual implementation of the work score. And then we would have a description, like paragraphs of each of the, the projects, paragraph explaining our results and progress, next steps, and maybe next project. All right. So this is what actually would go to the membership. So everybody would be viewing this one-page report about the internal setup of the admin. Then you'd have a one-page report that would be for all the external goals, priorities, projects, and organizations. And that would be a one-page report. And then you'd have a one-page report that would be for the whole thing. For overall, but you can only do this one-page report. This would be the last thing that you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because
After we are done with the number one.
So this is the last part that you do. Because until you have the report on your internal setup admin and your external goals and priorities and organizations, entities, programs, campaigns, etc. Okay?
Yes.
So until we have these first two reports, it's not possible to do the last report because we won't have the information for it. Right? And it's not possible to do any of the reports until we have the actual calculations. Right? So this is the spreadsheet calculations of the percentage completion for the work that's getting done for the organizing and the work. For all of the projects, all of the branches. Okay?
Is that spreadsheet going to be different from this one for the positions?
This is not. The positions would be a different component, right? So, you could even do this right here. You could have a spreadsheet that lists all of our processes.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's like, okay, well, where are we in our position organizing? Right? How many positions do we have organized? Where are we in our responsibility organizing? Right? We're overall responsibility organizing. We are probably at, maybe 17% of our responsibilities are even starting to get organized. And of the work getting done, there's probably more like 5% of the responsibilities are getting of the work. So this is the organized. So we're more organized than we are getting the work done.
Yeah.
But we're starting to get some of the responsibilities completed. And one of the reasons why I think it's at 5% right now is because we've cut down on so many people. Right? We fired 75% of our staff. So obviously we're getting less work done than we used to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the amount of responsibilities and the actual work that needs to get done. Right?
Yeah.
But all that work still needs to get done. We just aren't capable of doing it. Right? So anyways, the point is that this particular report is going to be extremely helpful because it will give a very broad overview of the entire network, in one page, right? So just a few pages and a few spreadsheets, you'll be able to see everything going on in the network, and it'll help everybody, including the workers, understand what's actually going on and where we are as a network. Okay, and then this is something that we would give to the membership during the Mara session, and we would also have available for the, the Saturn sessions and the series sessions and other types of global sessions, etc. Ooh, another example of a an organization. So other internal organizations would include FQN, right? The FQN Community Network, the Unity Network, and the Strategy Coalition, right? So these we are, our own network is an organization as well, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So and then you have the worker, right? So you have the FQN workers org, right? So we have a lot of organizations ourselves. That is what we are, because the actual administration and the actual branches isn't necessarily us, right? This is just all the work that we do. We also have an organization, but our organization isn't particularly organized, right? For example, we don't do equity, team equity, right? Right. So that's really important for our organization, is to have team equity and to have, you know, all of that organized properly, but it's not. And that would be part of our actual goals and priorities as a network, as opposed to just our internal work that we do. You know, but also obviously team equity is part of our valuations and value systems. Let's see, which let's just quickly check on that. Curious. I think it would go into member relations. Not 100% sure on that. Or value, yeah, value tracking. So it would go into value tracking. So value tracking includes the value tracking for our own organization, as well as value tracking for other organizations. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And that would be where all of our equity is and all of our value distribution systems are. All right. Anyways, do you guys have any other questions, or does it more or less make sense? So you're probably going to want to copy and you know, put all of this into, like this right here. You need a worker organizing methodology doc, and there's also going to be a worker organizing system doc, right? So these are going to need to be created.
Mm-hmm.
So both of these need to be created for that, and that'll help us get organized for training on the worker organizing. And then these are the worker organizing systems and all the processes of the systems. And then you're going to want to, so that'll be indexed there. Then you're also going to want to index all of this into, I guess you could just index it into the Plasmo doc for now. Index into Plasmo doc. Or you can
I just have a question, like on a process of the worker organizing system. I think we need to have the one verifying the percentage, then the spreadsheet that you can organize all the process. Like if it is position organizing process, you list all.
The position organizing would be this here, right? So these are all the positions, and then you want to make sure every position has, you know, a doc, and you want to make sure that every position has a description. The description can be within the doc, but you need a position description and you need a position doc for every position, and that's the organizing the position. Then the position would organize all the responsibilities within their purview, right? And then if you're a coordinator position, if you're a coordinator, you need to organize all of the managers that you're coordinating, right? All of the manager positions, right? And then if you are a executive position, you need to organize all the coordinators that your executive is coordinating, right? That the executive has oversight for, right? So depending on the position, you have different levels of, you know, organizing that need to be done for that position, right?
Yeah.
And depending on what you're talking about, for example, a branch would be an executive position would oversee a branch. A coordinator would oversee a project. Coordinator position would oversee a project, and then you'd have managers overseeing, specific clients and specific, work areas that are getting done. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
The other last question on umbrella. Are we creating overall status reporting spreadsheet, or we create spreadsheet calculation of complete for the work?
Yeah.
I'm a bit confused.
Yeah. So the spreadsheet calculations is for you just want to create a spreadsheet. I think you only need one spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, one.
To start with. I mean, eventually you might need more than one spreadsheet, especially for separate reporting. Like if you're reporting for this year, then you're going to report for next year. You'd want a separate spreadsheet for each year. But this one, so you want to create a spreadsheet with many tabs, right? So your tabs might include, one tab for organizing, one tab for like branches. So you'd have branches, projects, maybe organizing, etc., etc. Obviously you already have one for positions, right? You don't need another one for positions, but that's why you might need a doc. So you need to be organizing this entire responsibility under a doc. I would either put this into the Plasmo doc, right? Or you can create a separate doc for this responsibility. If you think that this is a pretty big responsibility, creating these reports and everything, so there's going to be a lot of links and information. You're going to have a link for each report. You're going to have a link for all the different spreadsheets that you're going to be coordinating and organizing, because you're going to be linking, the different program spreadsheets on it. So you might just want to create a doc for this umbrella responsibility because there's so many components to it. Okay?
Yeah. That's why I was confused. That should be a doc.
Yeah.
We need to create a doc like overall status reporting for network membership.
Yeah, and the reason why you'd want to create a doc for it is because it's an umbrella responsibility that has many sub responsibilities to it. Right? So for example, the one-page report would be a responsibility. The overall report, the external report is going to be a responsibility. The internal report, the overall status, the network report is a responsibility. These are all separate responsibilities because they're separate reports, right? Each report in and of itself is its own responsibility. And then the spreadsheet and the calculations, basically the branches is a responsibility, right? This would be a responsibility. The projects would be a responsibility. The organizing would be a responsibility, right? So these are all separate responsibilities to coordinate the status of all the branches, the status of the projects, the status of the organizing, the status of all the work that's getting done. Okay?
Yeah, this is just what we start doing with Albina before on our main docs. We just thought like we need to have a project. If it is a payroll, you list all the responsibilities that are there. Oh, I think we are having at least ideas.
That's what you use the project doc for. So all the project docs should list all the responsibilities under that project.
Yeah.
And the managers who are responsible, or the coordinators who are responsible for those projects or that client, need to list all the responsibilities. That's like the first step, is to list all the responsibilities.
Are we also to include the managers under the given responsibility in the spreadsheet?
Well, there's the positions, right? So the positions.
We have a position spreadsheet.
But this one, the spreadsheet already exists, right? So it would be a separate spreadsheet. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Even position spreadsheet, I think you need to reorganize to put the position that really need to be active first then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So for example, positions, maybe like, create a backlog, right? And then prioritize the top like 25 to 50 positions that we want to focus on. right? Also for responsibilities, maybe there could be one for responsibilities, but maybe we focus on the soft stop / hard stop responsibilities because these are the number one most important responsibilities, right? Because they're the responsibilities that we can't not do. We have to do them, which is why we have soft and hard stop on them, right?
Yeah.
So that will narrow down the number of responsibilities to, just a handful of responsibilities, right? Then you got your policies, right? And this would go back to the organizing. So if we're doing the organizing, you have your list of the different types of work or organizing that need to get done, right? So here you can see we just went over responsibility organizing, right? So we could focus on just the hard stop, soft stop ones. And then you could have your overall, right? Then you've got the policy and protocol organizing, right? We barely even started on policy and protocol organizing. We're going to need to be organizing policies and protocols for each and every project, right? We need the payroll policies. We need the worker coordination policies. We need the budget policies. We need, all the different we need the sponsorship policies, right? All the different policies to be organized. And I'm not saying that we're going to do that right now. What I'm saying right now is that we need to say that under our projects, we need to be just really clear. For systems and processes, we're barely 5%. We barely started, right? We're probably like 3.5%, right? So
Yes.
so it's just like we just need to make it clear on every single project how much we've gotten completed, how much is organized, how much of the work is completed, and then eventually we'll average it all up together and it'll give us each of the branches and the overall percentages of everything, and then we're going to report that. And it's probably not going to look very pretty. Our first report, it's probably going to be like, we're terrible. We're like 10 to 20% or less. Who knows? Maybe we're 7%. I don't know what it's going to end up as. But the point is that we're going to be reporting it, and we're going to, be like, we don't have enough resources. Why is our report so bad? Well, we need more resources. We need $100,000 in the bank. We need, to hire more recruits or get more volunteers. So that's the whole point of the report, is to think about why and evaluate why we are where we are and how we can improve. And that's what we want to tell everybody in the membership, so that everybody is informed and so they can make good decisions on appointing the leadership of the organization, okay, of the network.
Yeah.
Oh, you really make it clear, Jay. I think we have a way forward. Not necessarily us only going to do, and can just now go and give those of other members who are willing to work on that. You can also put that video there. They have to watch and understand themselves also. That will be so better.
Okay, yeah, I'll link the video and get it uploaded. Okay.
A quick question: is Razo allowed to work with the on Zuri time?
He needs to check in at some point during Jello, because he needs to check in with me at some point, or he needs to send an email or do something. I mean, he's not communicating really much at all. I mean, at least he told us he's gonna come to work, but
Actually showed up today. He showed up today.
oh, well, that's good. I'm not against him doing some Zuri time as long as he has at least one session that is like Sonic or New World, right?
As two Sonic, then one Zuri.
Yeah, but the biggest problem with him was there was something in his rankings that he ranked really low. Do you guys remember why he ranked so low? There was something regarding his work.
Yes, he's inactive.
He ran low because he did not work. He just worked less.
Actually, last month he only worked 4 hours.
Yeah, so it was something. It was something relating to his pay. Oh no, it had to do with his like he worked so few hours that his fees increased his hourly rate by like a couple dollars because his fees were so high because of
Yeah.
the cost of actually running the payroll. So he needs to work at least a minimum number of hours or he's going to be ranked really low, and then he's going to end up getting he needs to focus on client work. I mean, technically right now he is ranked really low and he really needs to do client work based on his ranking.
Sure.
So unless he works more hours, he really can only do client work. He can't just do whatever he wants to. And that's the same with let's just look at the rankings real quick. So if I go to rankings.
The way I see him before, he looked like a brand new person. So you need to start from
scratch.
Well, but he's not starting from scratch. He's starting from a specific ranking, and his ranking is pretty low, right? So so this is which one are you on? HR, personnel rankings. Boy. Direct hour HR rankings for August, September. This looks good, right? Is it? Yeah, so Asif Razu is at $4.52.
Yeah.
So
and you master all this. Yeah, you really master all of them. And see.
So basically what I would say is like all of these people, Steve O is kind of borderline, but I would say pretty much anybody who is like over $4, including myself. I mean, I easily do plenty of client work. I'm doing my 33% client work, if not more. So I'm good to go on the client work.
Yeah.
Obviously Eileen's not doing enough client work. Rachel's gone, so we can get rid of Rachel.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna put a strike through it. Anyway, so but the main thing is that Steve O and especially Joseph, right? Joseph's at 450. Asif Razu is currently at 450. Joyce, if she came back, she's getting paid practically more than anyone else. So and then obviously Maricel, but Maricel should be going to volunteer status. I'm worried about Maricel in terms of like why she needs the money so bad and like what's going on, and if she does need a stipend, like because I don't feel like she should feel like we're forcing her to do volunteer, but it's like if she stays at this level, she's gonna get cut from the budget anyways. I mean, there's just no way that she can. I mean, I wouldn't vote for her to be getting paid 3-4 times more than anyone else. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? And then anyways, these people here, like Jessica, obviously Lucy Albina, Farah, obviously Wahoo, right, can all do whatever they want to, So it's like you don't need to do as much client work. Well, obviously you guys are working on a lot of client work, but it doesn't, if you're working on tons of client work, it's great to be doing that, Albina, but if Joseph is not doing client work, it's like you need to be doing, like, let's look. So we do 455 divided by 236. You would need to be doing twice as much client work as done Joseph to even equalize him. And if you want to try to counteract Joseph's client work, you would be needing to work 4 times as much client work as him to be able to counteract it. So Joseph needs to be doing client work or he shouldn't be working.
Yes.
I don't know how else to say it. Otherwise, everyone's going to be on hard stop. Like there's just, I don't know what else to do. So what we need to do is, today, tomorrow, and in the next couple weeks, we have to be, or at least this week, right? We have to be focused on our client work and just get through the minimal things for the budget, get through the minimal things for like other internal ops and things like that are mandatory, not mandatory, but hard soft stop responsibilities. So basically right now, especially for Old World, we're at hard soft stop responsibilities only. And so we're not even doing mandatory priorities. And then we're only going to be focusing on client work. as much as possible until we get back over the 28.5% of our time as client work. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, now that we have a go ahead on Plasmo, I think we are going to train them to work on that. Maybe then again we are back again to maybe ask for other training or other client work. Maybe you show us like the responsibilities for jail support and other things. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds good. And I mean, just really quickly, as far as Jay's support goes, it's the same thing as Jay's support is a management responsibility, right? So Jay's support it would be management / real time virtual assistant, right? So what is it that needs to be managed? Well, you need to list of priorities. What are the priorities that need to be managed? And then who is doing them and when are they going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, most of this all is, because Jay's support, it's all part of me, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the real-time virtual assistant goes. But we have the doctor's appointment. I have a dentist appointment tomorrow, actually. Jeez, that's the kind of problem. There's bills, there's, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so the idea is to list all of the priorities that need to happen.
Insurance.
Oh, yeah. Medical insurance, which relates to the doctor's appointment. So anyways, this all just needs to happen, right? And then the new one is the Jurison support, which is basically similar in that it's work that I've been doing, but it's primarily on the overall network support, right? And then we also have the executive support, but this is not client work currently. But it is bonus work. Bonus work. And we need to do our bonus token and our bonus processes. So anyways, like people can work on this. Like, what do we need? We need a client doc, right? That lists our priorities, right? It's just like all the same stuff for anything, right? Every single client needs a client doc. We need a list of priorities, start realizing what needs to happen, when is it going to happen, how many hours is it going to go towards it. Also, I was working on the budget. I got the Mo taxes and sponsorship budget calculated out, and it is increasing. So it's going to go up to $340 for next month. So that's good.
Okay, like on doctor's appointment, how frequent do you go to your doctor?
I don't go. That's the problem. I need to schedule a doctor's appointment. I'm too busy. Reminder? I don't think about it. It's like not my priority. It's not how my mind works. I'm just like doing work instead of taking care of myself.
Yeah,
so bad.
Yeah. So anyways, for the budget, I just have these last 3 to do for the accountability reporting, Legion member relations, and multimedia support. But remember, for all the Plasma work that I just showed you, there's still going to be a specific amount of money, and it's only going to be a few hours. Like, according to this, we only need to do 2 hours of buddy team work per week. Right? This is per week. Right? So it's like, as far as I'm concerned, we did enough for today. Like, it's done. We did it. So now for this week. So then next week we can do some more. Right?
Yeah.
So we don't need to do a lot. Hopefully we can increase the amount of accountability reporting. Also, if you're doing sponsorship accountability reporting, you could probably, slip that into sponsorship. Right? If you're doing Mo taxes accountability reporting, you could probably slip that into the taxes. Right? And this has 8 hours per week, and it's 4 hours per buddy team. So that'd be 2 sessions. Although we do need to start prioritizing the taxes because they're due. We have a deadline coming up, and that's also going to be a hard stop, soft stop, right? For the entire network, right? Or the entire all workers, right? Because we have to get those taxes done.
More taxes, is it what the Zillow doing now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So anyways, once I get this done, we should have the budget pretty ready to go. We just need to finalize the ranked values. And it looks like Mamoon and Mozzie, I mean, this is a no as far as being verified. So that's a problem for them.
But he says it's 3,000.
Okay, well, you just need to see if it's verified. If it's verified, it's verified. If it's not, it's not.
We need to. Yeah.
And he needs to change the number of hours. So the hours is where it's going to change, right? And then that's going to change the money per hour. And then we'll see where it fits. And then we're looking at potentially cutting Joyce and Aline. So if they get cut, that might create room for adding Mozzie and Mamoon.
Yeah.
Even if they are at $4 an hour. So they could be ranked the lowest, but still be able to fit in the budget.
Jay, on more taxes, how many hours per week? Is it 4 hours?
For Mo taxes?
Yeah.
I believe it's 8 hours. So Mo taxes is 8 hours a week at $3 an hour, which works out to 4 hours of buddy teamwork.
Because Zilu is concentrating on more taxes. Like last month, he had almost 25 hours.
Sure, but Zilu's ranking is $2.36, right? So if you look at his ranking, he is more at the $2 level. So he could work 12 hours a week on Mo taxes, which is, if you multiply that times 4 weeks, is going to be 48 hours for the month.
Okay, I get it.
Based on his.
So now, Jay, because these things are very limited, and like now, we thought that since now you train us on Plasmo, we can just go and do the same later with the rest of the members. But the hours are limited. What shall we do? Can we allow them to watch the video that you train us?
Well, I mean, the point is that the hours are limited in relationship to making the money, the budget, right? So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that in order to meet the necessary amount to bring in the budget, it's not that hard, right? We just have to do what we just did, not just for Plasma, but for all of these, right? We just need to go through every single one of these, check in on it, and then boom, we have the hours for the week. It's done. That's all that we need to do. There's not a lot that needs to get done, right? So then you can work on whatever you want to, right? So basically, we need to train Joseph to do client work, like Plasmo, and then we might be losing a little bit this week where we're working a little much. Remember, we can average it off for the whole month, right? Because we track everything monthly. But then the next week, if he's doing Plasma work, then you don't have to, right? So it's actually, if you think ahead for the next week, you putting a little extra time, even though it doesn't help our budget, by training Joseph, it does help our budget for next week. Does that make sense?
True. Yeah.
And either way, it's still going to help our percentage client work for the week, because that's not that doesn't directly relate to the budget. It indirectly relates to the budget.
Yeah.
So, anyways, hopefully this all makes some sense, and
it's really it's nice. We have a guideline. We know the hours. Before I did not know that we need to work according to the budget that you put the hours.
Well, yeah, no, this is really helpful. The potential income, so this is for August, September. This is for next month, the 31 degree east. So it's a little higher than this month. So we're at 1,800, possibly 1,900. But of course, this is just the potential money, right? So
Yeah.
we calculated out based on the overall, it's about 28%, 28.5% to 33%, and it's 44 hours a week at $3 an hour. So if we do 44 hours a week at $3 an hour, right, it will give us enough. I think it's 100 and something hours, right? So times 4 weeks, 170. So it's about 200 hours. Okay,
Yeah.
per month. So if we can do those 200 hours, and we already calculated that we're doing, between 400 and 500 hours of work. If we do some more recruitment and bring some new people on, because we have a lot of people who are not working much, we have over 300 hours that aren't, the work's just not getting done, right? So it's like we should be able to meet that 44 hours a week for all of our clients and bring in all of the money. That's the goal, is to bring all of the client money in every single month. Like we don't want to leave any client money just sitting there, right? We want to bring it all in by doing the work. If we don't do the work, we don't get the money.
Yes, this is clear now. Very clear.
So
like now already we spend 3 hours, like 3 hours or how many hours?
Yeah.
For plasma. We already spend more.
No, not 3 for plasma. We were doing a weekly check-in, so almost 2 hours. Like 2 hours on plasma. Actually, it's not even 2. 1.75.
Yeah, and this is part of where we need to be coordinating the client work coordinator, right? And the client work coordination, right? So let's say the Mo taxes are due on the 15th. That gives us 2 weeks, right? So we could double the amount of time that we put on the first 2 weeks of the month, and then it all averages out for the month, right? So we don't have to do exactly 8 hours a week on Mo taxes. We could do all of the Mo taxes in the first week and then not do any the last 3 weeks and still get the money, right? Because it's averaged over the whole month, right? Because you're invoicing it for the whole month and not by week.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Are you looking for something? What are you looking for? So I gotta get going here, but I want to make sure that it's clear that that we are going to be, that I gotta go to the bank. All right, so today I'm gonna miss Cobalt. So I'm not gonna be able to make Cobalt because I'll be at the bank, although I will be able to do text messaging.
Okay.
Are we also going to make it for Cobalt, Lucy?
We can just continue maybe for 1.5 hours, then we doing different thing, not plasma. Or 1 hour, then we go. Or you want to take 30 minutes, or you want to take 15 minutes, you come back?
Yeah.
Which one?
We take a break.
Okay, let us take a break for 15 minutes then.
Yeah.
Okay, he will be here back at 2:15.
Okay,
Hey,
bye.
Jay, thank
Good
you
work.
so much.
Ciao.
Thank